This is Kate Stalker interviewing Dawnne Edseth on May 13th, 2019. Dawnne, thanks for coming. Why are you willing to share your story?
I think it's interesting that I feel like for the longest time I was the new one here, but in the last 2 years I've seen a very large turnover that I'm now one of the older, and so now I do feel like I am part of Monona and part of the history now, which I hadn't realized how quickly that actually happened, but now I've been here.
And what brought you here? When did you come?
I moved here when I was 28 years old, so like 27 years ago now. It was my first house, and I bought a house that had a swimming pool.
Next to the swimming pool?
Next to the public swimming pool, yes. But
Yes.
This one had one in my backyard, and so as a young 28-year-old person, I had a big swimming pool with a little house.
And that swimming pool was at the
That was at 5207. Schluter.
corner of Schluter and Nichols.
Yep, and I was there 11 years.
And during that time, what sorts of big things happened to you?
We had babies. We had 2 babies, my partner and Diana.
And can you tell us about that?
That was very exciting because we had voted twice to turn down the school referendum for the new high school, which from the locals tell me that the first high school was a quick throw up to stop City of Madison from annexing Monona. So the people of Monona, I learned, were a very strong, very proud group and very protective of our borders. And so we kind of joked, Anna and I, going, well, if we got to pay all this extra tax money, we're now going to have babies. So that's what we did. We ordered Baby Better, and we had 2 children.
Yes.
And they have gone from kindergarten at Maywood on Nichols, then they went to Winnequa, then they went to Cottage Grove, and now one is about to graduate from the high school, and the other is a sophomore at MG21. And so we've had the pleasure of experiencing just about every school in the district.
That's wonderful. And Maywood was kitty corner from your house at the time.
Yes.
And
Well, actually, Maywood was directly behind our house at that time because when they were 1.5 and 3, we moved.
to the opposite
5306.
corner
Yep.
of the same intersection.
Same intersection.
Tell me what that's been like to live at the same intersection for 27 years?
27 years. You get used to the sirens, and you always send a good energy that whoever they're going for, that they're going to be okay. You can't ever complain about it because I chose to live here. You got to put up with the 4th of July traffic and rent parking on my driveway and lawn. So you can't complain. You just got to participate. And the police and fire are my neighbors. I take them cookies and baked goods, and because they're the longest neighbor I've had. And so I've gotten to know several of the officers by name. I wave at them. It's a small town. It really is in so many ways.
So I know you grew up in Mount Horeb. Can you tell us what the differences are between your childhood in Mount Horeb and the childhood you think your children have had in Monona?
Not a whole lot, thank God. And that's a good thing, other than them being bused to Cottage Grove for the schools out there, which I didn't have to do. But other than that, at Mount Horeb and Monona have the same main street, Monona Drive, that a lot of your basic needs and the grocery store, doctors, pharmacies, all that stuff. So it has a very similar vibe. And it's kind of weird because it's kind of disjointed because you've got the main street, but then you've got all the municipal recreation and services over on this corner.
Right.
So in that respect, it's a little different. And so we kind of have 2 little hubs, that as times have gone by and kind of changed and evolved. And so
You have a front row seat.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about your family history. What did your parents do for a living and in Mount Horeb when you were growing up?
Mom was always stay at home, but always had some side business, whether it was ceramic shop, cake decorating, seamstress, upholstery. She always had something going on. And then Dad was a mechanic at the old Klusendorfs in Mount Horeb, and then later for Lycon and Wingrove. So we always had one at home and, went out. But always just a very middle class income, that we had just enough. Not a lot of extra, but enough.
And I need to say, knowing you for many years, as I have, you are an excellent cake decorator and an excellent mechanic. So I can attest to that. Can you tell me what a formative personal experience would be in your life? Something maybe from childhood that made you who you are.
Oh, it's got to be my parents. As for doing the right thing, doing things for neighbors, that your neighborhood is more than just your house, that you participate, that you're community active, that, if somebody needs something and you've got a couple dollars extra, you share that. And that's what, this whole area still has that, when they take somebody I know to the hospital like they did a few weeks ago, or when my neighbor's house burnt 4 or 5 years ago, you take cookies to the fire department and the police department and you say thank you, that you have that relationship.
Do you feel a little bit like Monona's going back in time into a kind of culture that doesn't exist in a lot of places now?
There is a little bit of a time capsule, and especially where we've still got a lot of volunteer fire, which a lot of places have gone away from. But I think it cements the involvement of the community in our public services, that they're not hired out, that they're not strangers. They are our neighbors. We know them. We go to school with their kids go to school with our kids. One of them I know coached one of my son's soccer games. And so it comes full circle that they're part of us. And I think that matters. That makes a difference.
That's wonderful. So tell me about your family's interests or personal hobbies. What do you do in your free time?
Besides raising children, I don't know. That's pretty involving right now with one about to leave for college and Outward Bound. Spending time at the concerts in the park that they got the free ones on, I think it's Wednesdays. I'm actually toying with getting involved with the community, the 4th of July festival, because I see on Facebook that they're looking for people to volunteer, and I have a background in logistics from being on the board of directors for Madison Gay Pride. So I know I've got different assets, and with soon to be an empty nester in 2 years, I need to find something to fill that gap.
How do you feel about becoming an empty nester?
Incredibly anxious.
Yeah, it's been a long time since you've been alone.
Yes. I suspect that there's going to be a feeling of a big change to my identity because of, for 18 years I've been parent number one. I'm a parent first, and then. And so I don't know how that happened, but now I gotta somehow evolve again.
Yes.
To something that parent is a little bit farther down the list.
Yeah.
So
can you tell me about how your neighborhood has changed?
Oh, it's changed quite a bit. And some of it concerns me. Because I'm seeing little houses, mom and dad, modest, because most of this was post-war in the 50s. They were done as 2 or maybe 3 bedroom homes. I'm seeing that people are buying them at very high prices in the most recent. 3 doors down, that one sold in the fall for a pretty good price, but they tore it right down to the sticks. Now I suspect they're going to be over $400,000 or so, and And it concerns me because it's hard for people like I was 27 years ago to come in as a young person and buy a house. That we've got to, I don't want to call them flippers because they're really not. They are good-sized developers, residential developers. But they're buying these modest middle-income homes and are now making them into upper-income homes. Mm-hmm. And we're going to lose that diversity and that economic mix that I think is important in any good community for strength. Same with, having affordable not only purchase for homes, but also rentals for any immigration, any type of diversity of any color and income. We need that socioeconomic mix. And I fear we're going to lose that we're all going to be 500,000 and up. Mm-hmm. And it's going to totally change the dynamic that we've had. That we're not going to have that income mix anymore.
So you're worried that there won't be young families with children and retired people and...
We're not going to be able to afford it.
And immigrants.
Yeah. And we need that diversity. We absolutely do.
So along those lines, you, being a gay woman, have, when you moved into Monona, been somewhat of a minority, I would imagine. Has that affected your relationships or your relationship to the city or your neighbors? Can you tell me about that?
No, I don't think so, because I think when we came in, we were out and visible to our next door neighbors. And of course, at the old house, we only had the one, which was a rental. So we had new neighbors every couple of years. But that
was in itself, that was very unusual then at the time.
Yeah. And that one house has been a rental house for probably 40 years. And was owned...
I meant being out and a gay
couple. Yes, that too.
Yes.
That too. But I think, with having more in-depth conversations with the neighbors, that they're just like, oh, you're just like me. You pay your taxes, you take your kid to school. And I think that type of visibility is important to go, no, we really are all the same.
Yeah, that's great.
That's it. It's just like, oh, we're kind of boring, actually.
That's great. So what would you tell someone who was thinking about moving to Monona today?
Bring lots of money. Because it's expensive now. And it concerns me. I've hit that point that I'm, almost 55. And looking at how do I want the next third or so of my life, and that financial security that I worry. How I was lucky, and I don't understand how my income hasn't changed in, unfortunately, 15 plus years, and yet my house value has doubled. That concerns
Taxes?
me. Yep, property taxes and the services, the water bill, the utility bill, all those things go up. But my income's not going with it. How does anyone jump into that?
Right.
I
hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I work with a young man that has three kids that are under 8, and he's from Haiti. And he wants to live in Monona. But as an immigrant, he can't. He can't even afford to rent here. And we have very few, even what's considered middle income. We've got a good-sized retirement community now, but we don't have middle income rentals for families. And again, you need that family base because that needs to support the schools.
Yes.
So it's such a big full circle, and you lose one link. And it collapses.
And you've seen it over the long term, so you've got a good perspective on it.
And when I first moved here, they said, "Oh, we're in the next couple 3 years, we're going to see a lot of the original owners getting out of their houses, and either going south or going to a retirement." And that didn't happen for probably another 10 or 12 years. So the Monona people, Mom and Dad are now Grandpa, Grandma. They really do want to stay in their homes. They love the location of things. The one neighbor 2 doors down that when his house caught fire, he unfortunately moved to Blooming Grove. He hated it. His wife hated it because they were used to walking to the community center, coming to the library, taking classes, exercise classes at the community center, going to the pool in walking distance. And now they had to drive to everything. And they were so unhappy the last time I talked to them.
That's a shame. So let's talk about your profession. I know your profession has changed a couple of times. Can you tell us about what you do now and how you chose it?
I'm really fortunate that I work for Bomatic, which is 5 minutes, 6 minutes from home, and has been a staple on Stoughton Road for almost 80 years.
And what do they do?
They make dairy equipment company and known for the big stainless steel milk tanks and things like that. We're the last American-owned dairy equipment company.
And how long have you been there?
I've been there over 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's scary how fast time goes.
What accomplishments are you most proud of?
After raising decent human beings, probably some of my remodeling skills.
Tell us about that.
In the houses. Both houses I did what I could interior-wise with what I had. Probably most proud of the bigger remodel on the 5306 with gutting the kitchen and things like that. Given a brick house, it leaves me limited, like one could do with regular construction. Brick kind of said, okay, you can rearrange me on the inside, but outside's going to be more of a challenge. And so making something that's comfortable, that fits my family. And that's been the outside, unlike you, I could care less about the outside. I don't even like mowing.
This is a heavy question. What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
I think kindness. Kindness that you do. It's the little things that matter, whether it's a kind word or a cookie, or just telling someone thank you, treating service people with respect. And it's all these little things.
That's wonderful. Do you have any stories you'd like to share?
Yeah. Now, I think one of the things that I like most is I live next door to the Fred Schluter farm. And what Fred Schluter, brought as for this community, that my second house, those people bought it originally from Fred, and how Fred owned everything to the lake, and just how those early, literally settlers, and what has risen out of, what was their farm.
Yeah, that's a pretty good distance from your house to the lake.
I find that amazing,
Yeah.
And that coworker that, their grandfather was Fred Walterscheid, which he's been long gone. But as to what they own, and I guess most of us don't think about way back when this was farmland.
Sure.
We look at it as a city and all built up and really expensive and boat docks and recreation, but at one time it was just simple farmland.
How has Monona Drive changed in your time here?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. The reconstruction of that, growing up coming in from Mount Horeb, Broadway was the Beltline. And so when they built the big bridge, I actually worked on that doing the pilings when I worked as an LTE for the state of Wisconsin. And I worked on a drill rig. So that was kind of cool. That was kind of telling, going, oh, I actually contributed a little something to Monona. But as to how much that changed, that you didn't have all those stoplights and how much faster, for the better or the worse, but as to how much the traffic flow has increased from east to west. But putting that bypass through, it's definitely... it's kind of crazy, actually, with how much things have changed. When I really think about all the little things. And the new high school and what that's brought, and how many times I've been in the auditorium, and my son's a lifeguard at the swimming pool that I didn't vote for. Um, but made the best of it, and what a pleasure that it's like, yeah, I guess I really should have voted for it because I've definitely benefited from it.
What businesses
So,
are still here that you remember from way back? Places you've shopped that have survived all the changes.
well, my physician has moved from. Actually, they were at the water tower, the little weird triangle building. Then they were on Monona Drive. And then they moved down to Broadway, but they have the sculpture.
Mm.
And my doctor had told me that that sculpture paid for a doctor bill that artist had.
That artist was Harry Whitehorse.
Yeah, and that's how he paid off his debt.
Wonderful. That's a great story.
And somebody, because he had a birthday, because he owned Chief's Auto Parts and things like that. So he was local, again, that back to that full circle history of business owners and occupants and the talents that he had. But I had posted it on Facebook and somebody told me that wasn't accurate, but I don't know why my doctor would lie about that when she's been a physician there for like 30 years. But it's cool that they moved that sculpture and that it stays, with them.
Yeah.
So it's those services that we don't have to go too far to be able to have that we can be independent and find everything that we need right here. So
Wonderful. Well, Dawnne, thank you very much for coming in and talking to us today. And I'm sure your friends and neighbors will love to hear your take on life in Monona. Thank you very much.
thank you.